Good evening, everybody. It's Javier. Real quick, we're going to get right to it. Welcome to our Thursday night study hall. What we're going to do today is show you something that can help you bring more value to your clients, especially as we get into this whole summer mentality, mindset, season, whatever you want to call it. It's important that you go ahead and book as many annual reviews as possible. And during those annual reviews, you have to bring value to clients. So, question for you: what can you, outside of reviewing the policy, whether it's an IUL or annuity, what else can you bring in value during an actual annual review? What do you do? Or if not, what would you do if you haven't done any? Anybody? Real quick. Hopefully we can get through this quick. So please, what would
Upgrade,
you do? Annual review. So
upgrades,
what?
upgrades,
What is
upgrade.
upgrade could be one. Okay. Value though. I'm asking about value, and we'll see where we're going with value. What else do you do?
Set up a trust.
You can help and set up a trust. That's a big one. Trust. What else? In our world, don't get too don't overthink it too much. Anybody? What else can you do? I'll give you one. Number two,
Make sure
another one,
that
set up a trust is probably number one. Number two is the emergency binder. Say, hey, look, listen, first of all, I want to thank you for your time, for being a valued client of mine. And what I would like to do is give you a special gift and put it up on the screen. This is what's called an emergency binder in case of emergency binder, because in case of emergency, everything that your loved ones need to know can be found right here. It's just my way of saying thank you for being a client with me all this time, all these years, whatever the case might be. What else can you do? What we're going to do is have a workshop in 2 weeks on probably the most popular thing that I've done throughout the years. And that is every couple of years, I look for a new and updated calculator. And the one that we have right now, I purchased, is a debt elimination calculator. And what it does, it lets people put in all their debt. Start with yourselves. Put all your debt, all the bills, all the credit cards, so you can see how much you owe, basically. But most importantly, it shows you how to prioritize to pay off all that debt in literally a fraction of the time, using what's called a snowball effect. So what the snowball effect simply means is that we take something with the smallest, then we pay that off. We take what we were paying there, apply it to the next one, then we apply it to the next one, and you can literally pay off a mortgage in just a fraction of the time it would have taken you had you followed your creditor's terms. Very powerful. It's the most popular thing I do with my clients. And I'm going to show you how to do that. And I'm going to give you a copy of that as well. So let's go ahead and get right to it. But before I do, I just want to share with you my screen, because I want to share with you why also that is so important. This is a text I received from Steve and Brian. And one of the things that I'll show you that I want all of you to know is that I want to help you go from being the hunter to the hunted. And for a lot of people, they spend their whole business or their whole career as a hunter, always chasing down the client. And let me tell you something that is very tiring, very frustrating. And whether you hunt or you are the hunted has a lot to do with the value that you bring to a relationship, like a client. And so, anyways, here's what he said. By the way, got hunted down today by three other staff. What happened is he was at a school doing a ice cream party, popsicle party. And in the process of being present and people seeing that there was more to him, this is what happened. By the way, got hunted down today by three other staff. First teacher came up, introduced herself, told me her coworkers were telling her to talk with me because I've been wonderful to work with. Two office staff told me that they had been encouraged to speak with me. And principal has heard good things, thanked me for being there for them, and was very happy to hear that I've picked up several clients. Validation. Become the hunted, not the hunter. Or as I like to say it, go from being a hunter to being the hunted. That's the power of this. And I hope you understand that's what I want to do with you as well. So we're going to get right into it. Another thing you need to understand is when you bring value, you can't bring value. You can't bring a product. You can't bring a concept or an idea that you don't know or even understand. And so what I'm going to do today is fly through this, because this is going to be super quick just for the purpose of being study hall. And we're going to talk about the difference between revocable versus irrevocable trust and how it relates to life insurance. Now, before I go any further, I have to give you a warning. Very, very, very clear. I want to be very super clear about this. I am not an attorney, believe it or not, and neither are you. So never render any tax or legal advice, and always direct your clients to their tax and or legal advisors. All right. Want to make sure you understand that. So, first of all, we'll start with the basics. The vast majority of people have nothing as it relates to estate planning, not even a will. And so, if somebody whipped out a piece of paper and just wrote out a will, they'd be in the very small percentage of people who have ever bothered to do that. And it's very, very sad because at that point, you are guaranteed to be in probate. And I'm not going to get into the mess that that can create, especially when it comes to real estate and other assets as well. So a will is probably better than nothing, but even better is a trust. I'm a firm believer in living trust. I think everybody should have a trust, especially if you have kids, if you have any type of asset, whether it be real estate or life insurance, especially if it's an IUL, that's a permanent form of life insurance, and so on. And so the difference between the will and the living trust are on the screen, so I'm not going to bore you with the details. But the big deal with living trust is that they do avoid probate. They remain private. Financial assets can still be managed during incapacity. Guardianship is not covered, and blah, blah, blah. On the other hand, will, it has to go through probate every single time. It's a public record, cannot manage financial assets during incapacity, has the ability to nominate guardians for minor children, which is good, and more simpler and cheaper than a living trust. Somebody could just whip out their Microsoft Word and type away and sign it, put a thumbprint, have it notarized, whatever they want to do to make it official, and that's all there is to it. On the other hand, living trusts do cost more money. Now, this is what I love to refer to as the napkin finance, and this is just literally, as you can see on the napkin, where now that we're talking about trust, the two main things you want to understand is that there's really two main types of trust. You have revocable and you have irrevocable trust. And I'm going more of the irrevocable trust for what I'm going to end this presentation with right now, so that when you're talking to a client, at least you sound intelligent. And again, you're not rendering advice. Just make sure you understand revocable versus irrevocable and so on, because I'm going to show you right now how all these end up basically being just nothing more, nothing less, like irrevocable, or what we call it ILIT. ILIT. Does anybody know what an ILIT is? ILIT? ILIT? Okay, well, I'll cover that in just 1 second. No big deal. So what we're talking about is that this is all about the ILIT, by the way, which is an irrevocable life insurance trust. And it's a way of managing a life insurance in a way that's irrevocable. So again, when it comes to trust, just keeping it simple, there's two types: revocable, irrevocable. Now, a revocable one simply means that it can be changed. And it can be changed at any stage by different people involved in the actual trust, if you would, especially, of course, the owner, if you would. So therefore, that gives you flexibility. Assets still on the grantor's estate, which we'll talk about that. It's another way of saying the owner, if you would, the grantor. And then, of course, there are drawbacks, and that's the biggest one of all. So when you go into the right-hand side, which is an irrevocable trust, well, one thing is that terms can't be changed. It's set in stone. So whatever the person, the grantor in this example, decides, it's what's going to happen, regardless of who they assign as the beneficiary. And we'll talk about the other aspects of it right now. So again, one is set in stone. It's not going to be changed, and it's done. And so some of the uses include anything from helping, managing affairs, move assets from heirs, and of course faster, because that's what that does. On the right-hand side, irrevocable ones, they do reduce estate taxes and they protect assets from creditors. On the left-hand side, it can be attached, meaning a revocable one, the assets can be obtained. And I'm not going to give legal advice, but the bulletproof, when you think bulletproof estate planning, it's irrevocable that we are referring to, or anybody is referring to as well. So again, I'm not going to get too much into this as it relates to the details, because you're going to be able to replay this video if you want to, and just go ahead and go over this as you please. But in a nutshell, what I'm going to get into here in just 1 second is how this ties into the actual revocable life insurance trust, or ILIT. Now, the key thing with the ILIT is that the person that wants to set this up has to do it while they're alive. That's one of the main things, because I had a client once that, I don't know if you know this or not, but all of our insurance companies, including, let's just say, National Life Group, what they allow you to do, as long as the beneficiary approves it. This is where we're getting outside of a trust. I'll give you an example. I I have my wife as a beneficiary on $1 million life insurance policy, and I die. Now I want her to receive $5,000 a month until the 500,000 is gone, if you would. Can I do that with a carrier? Can I do that with just by leaving instructions to a carrier? Anybody? What do you think?
No.
What do you mean? No.
How are they gonna, they're not gonna just give you 500 a month from the death benefit, would they?
Well, I'm asking you. Anybody?
I don't think so.
Okay. Anybody else?
No.
Because I know that if they do it that way, 5,000 from 1 million, if you do the math, that's 200. So that's 200 payments. And if we divide that by 12, that's 16 years. So I know my wife is going to be receiving her 5,000 every single month for 16 years. Is that possible or not? Anybody? I mean, there's no, just guess. Don't worry about it. Anybody know?
No.
Possible through a
Everything has
trust.
to be paid out.
What is it?
It's set up in a trust.
Okay, we're not talking trust yet. We're not talking trust. So here's what I'm getting at. Like I've told my wife, something happens to you, do not take the money for a couple of different reasons. I don't want my kids to come up and suck money away from her or give her a guilt trip and ask for money or loan or whatever. Only take the 5,000 a month option. However, that only holds true if she approves it after I die with the carrier directly, but she can change her mind at any time. So if I'm afraid that my family, our family, or somebody's going to sucker her to get money, she can at any time. So she will start to, the answer is yes, she will start to receive 5,000 a month because that's the instructions that she signed off with the carrier. But then if she comes back in 6 months and says, you know what, I have a new honey, my new honey wants money, they're going to give her the whole thing. If she burns through it in another year, then at that point, she's out of luck. And that's not what I wanted. So what I'm looking for is more along the lines of a trust. Now, if I do that in a revocable trust, those terms can be changed again. But if I do what I just told you, and I place that in irrevocable trust, she can't ever change it. Nobody can ever change it. And now the trust is going to whip out $5,000 a month until the funds are fully depleted in about 20 years because of the interest that's going to be earned. And then I told the trust that once she dies, cut a check, divide that balance that's remaining by the number of kids that I have, cut them all a piece of that equally, and we're done with the trust. It serves its purpose, and you can do that. Does that make sense, guys? Anybody? I just want to make sure you understand, because we're going to get into some of this stuff. Now, why would somebody go with a irrevocable? Well, I just gave you one scenario where it must be done that way because I'm doing this life insurance thing for my wife to make sure she's taken care of for life. Because unfortunately, when they come across big chunks of money, just like the lottery, it's usually gone in a year or two. And then it defeated the whole purpose. On the bottom of this image, you'll find a few others, including privacy. I don't want people to know how much I'm leaving. I don't want anybody to come and sniff around to see how much money my wife inherited, if you would. And so privacy is a big one. Also, flexibility and trust instructions, if you're looking for that. But if you look on the right, that's a very important one where it says provide for minor and disabled heirs. Now we're getting somewhere. When you get to know your clients, and let me tell you something, we in the history of this nation and the world, we have never had more special needs kids than today. And if you approach a parent, like I mentioned it when I'm in my roll call presentations or my teacher staff meetings, and I throw that out there, because if I'm talking to you about 30 teachers, there's probably 3 or 4 in there, minimum, that has special needs kids. And so I always say, what a better way for you to know that you're taking care, especially of any special needs children, from the grave, than by leveraging the power of life insurance combined with a trust that nobody can mess with. And again, your stock goes up big time. So I'm not going to get too much into this because I want to get into a few things. Now, along those lines, we can have a revocable beneficiary and we can also have an irrevocable beneficiary. Now, with the revocable can be removed from a policy? Yes, if it's revocable. I have my wife, Marcella, as my beneficiary. We get divorced. Hell no, I'm not going to leave her. I want the new wife to be the beneficiary. Well, if I have it like I have it, it's irrevocable, she's going to get paid regardless. Can have their portion of the death benefit changed? Yes. If it's a revocable one, I want to leave it 100% to my wife. You know what? In a year, I only want to give her 50%, and the other 50% I want to go to my grandkids. After that, you know what? Screw the grandkids. I want to leave it to my dog. Whoever taking care of my dog. That's what I want to. You can do that. On the irrevocable beneficiary side, you cannot. And of course, must be notified if the policy is canceled. With the revocable, no. On the irrevocable side, yes, they have to be notified. And that's when a lot of the time, especially if my wife is my irrevocable beneficiary, and then we end up getting divorced, and I end up saying, you know, screw you. I'm going to just cancel. I'm not going to pay. I'm going to cash out my cash value, and you're screwed. She takes this to court. They're going to order me. The court's going to order me to keep paying that damn insurance. And no, you can't change anything because it's irrevocable or whatever the case might be. Again, I'm not rendering legal advice. I'm just telling you, generally, that's how it goes. So why? What are the big deals, especially on the irrevocable side of the house? Well, with an irrevocable trust, minimizes estate taxes. If you are the owner and the insured, then the death benefit of a life insurance policy will be included in your gross estate. Again, this is very important. However, when life insurance is owned by an ILIT, irrevocable life insurance trust, the proceeds from the death benefit are not part of the gross estate. So if I die tomorrow and I have an irrevocable trust, then what happens is, okay, Javier has $1 million of life insurance. Okay, that's part of your estate. Oh, and I own my home. There's another 200,000 that are going to go into the estate. What else did he have? Oh, he had $10,000 in computers. Okay, let's throw that puppy in there. Oh, wait a minute. We just find out his life insurance of $1 million is being held in an irrevocable trust. Hold on. $1 million is no longer part of his own estate. And that's the massive deal. And the key thing here is, like it says right there, if properly drafted, the ILIT can, however, provide liquidity to help pay estate taxes as well as other debts and expenses, like take care of my wife or a special needs child or whatever the case might be. The flexibility is still there. That's important. Another big reason when it comes to the ILIT, a properly drafted ILIT avoids gift tax consequences since contributions by the grantor are considered gifts to the beneficiary. To avoid gift taxes, it is crucial that the trustee, using a crummy letter, notify the beneficiary. So what that crummy basically just refers to is it's a way of assigning assets so that they don't count against the estate. It's pretty cool. So avoiding gift taxes is a big deal. Government benefits. And now we're getting into important stuff. Do you have, as a matter of fact, next to my mom, they have one of her neighbors, the family lost the home to the government. They lost their home because the mother, elderly, passed away. And because of this right here, government benefits, assets she had in her estate, they literally lost a paid off home to the government. And so therefore, it's important, just like it shows you right here. Having the proceeds from life insurance policy owned by the ILIT can help protect the benefits of a trust beneficiary who is receiving government aid, such as Social Security, disability, or Medicaid, and so on, and so on, and so on. Also, asset protection is very, very important because of the simple fact that, just like it says here, each state has different rules and limits regarding how much cash value or death benefit is protected from creditors. Any coverage above these limits held in an ILIT is generally protected from the creditors. If it's in a revocable one or it's not in a trust, then that protection is not there. And so that's why it's very, very important to know and structure it properly, if you would. Like it says, distributions, the trustee of an ILIT can have discretionary powers to make distributions and control when beneficiaries receive the proceeds of your policy. The insurance proceeds can be paid out immediately to one or all of your beneficiaries, or you can specify how and when beneficiaries receive contributions. This is especially why it's so critical that if you're selling IULs or any type of life insurance, that you run this by every time that a parent wants to leave a minor child as a beneficiary. Very dangerous because kids can't be paid out. They cannot be paid out. So how do we do it? Who the hell's going to provide for the child until they hit 18 years of age? And that's something that a living trust, or at least an ILIT of here, can help address. The distributions. Legacy planning, the generation skipping transfer tax imposes a tax of 40% of both outright gifts and transfers in the trust to or for the benefits of unrelated persons who are more than 37.5 years younger than the donor, or and so on and so on and so on. And so you want to make sure that if you really do want to set up something for your client wants to do a legacy planning, it has to be structured the right way to avoid getting nailed by Uncle Scam. And then, of course,
Hey, Javier. Hey, this is Keith.
Go ahead,
Hey,
Keith.
I had one of my clients recently. She did not, she left. If she dies, it goes to the son. But if her and her son died, the contingent beneficiaries,
Yeah.
they were like 9 years old. And she goes, this is what I want to do. And I go, I don't think you can do that. But I called up this is with National Life Group.
Sure.
They said they would save it until they turned 18.
That's what I'm saying. They're not going to cash them out. They're not going to cash them out. They can't.
Yeah, not until they turn 18 at that point.
Understand one thing. That is not why 99.99% of the parents put their kids. They think that if I have my minor child, 5-year-old, and I'm like, yeah, you're right, Keith. I don't want to leave my kids hanging, or whoever takes care of them. You're right. So I'm going to put little Javier as my beneficiary, and then I die. They're not going to cut a check to little Javier. They're not going to cut a check to little Keith. They're not going to cut a check to the guardian of little Keith. They're not going to do a damn thing until little Keith turns 18. That's not what a parent understands. They believe that that money's going to be used to raise them. You understand?
I get it. Okay, thanks.
So what I'm saying, you don't want to leave them hanging thinking that, okay, National Life Group will say, okay, well, Keith wanted his Keith Jr. to receive the money, but we can't give it to him because he's minor. Let's give it to whoever happens to be taking care of him. That's not going to happen until they turn 18. And then you're going to have a parent literally turning in their grave saying, what the hell is that all about? That's not what 99.999% of the parents understand. They think that it's going to go to okay, I understand you're not going to give it to my 5-year-old, but I'm sure you're going to give it to whoever happens to be their legal guardian or who I set up, blah, 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 whatever. Don't get caught up in that. I've seen that happen too many times, and it's horrible because not somebody's going to have to pick up that kid and flip the bill. And then what? Hopefully get reimbursed, which they're not. They're not going to get reimbursed for that. And all along, there's a couple $100,000 or $1 million or whatever the death benefit might be. And all because we allowed them to make that mistake. Now, they can make that mistake, but just make sure you emphasize to them how they really do need to talk to an attorney, estate planning attorney, ideally, to make sure that that life insurance is going to be there in the event. So again, we go back to the trust. In this example, maybe a revocable one would be ideal for them because they have young kids and they're going to change. They're going to move up and they go off to college, they graduate, they start their career, they get married, but they can redo that portion. That's why I'm saying you have to be very, very well at that. What is the main downside of an irrevocable trust? Well, the primary downside is that no changes can be made once the trust is finalized. Whatever is put into the trust is no longer yours, and this could have severe implications down the road. For example, if you put a house or a significant amount of cash in the trust with the intent that it will be given to your heir, and then you unexpectedly need those assets in the future, there's nothing you can do about obtaining them. However, in some cases, an irrevocable trust can be dissolved by the courts, depending on the situation. That's pretty much your only way out. Let me back up because I skipped one. I know I'm getting messages in that. Here we go. When we were talking about tax considerations, understand one thing: irrevocable. Emphasize with the emphasis on irrevocable. Irrevocable trusts have a separate tax identification number and a very aggressive income tax schedule. However, the cash value accumulated in the life insurance policy is free from taxation, as is the death benefit. So there are no tax issues with having a policy owned in an ILIT. Very, very important. And then let's just go ahead and wrap it up. When the grantor dies, which is whoever set this up, what happens to an irrevocable life insurance trust? When the grantor dies, the life insurance trust will continue to collect the benefits and then be distributed to the trust beneficiaries as determined by the grantor when the trust was created. I want my kids to get $1,000 a month until the thing hits zero, the balance hits zero. Well, then guess what? Just going to spit out the $1,000 a month until the balance hits zero. I want it to be, paid out as soon as I die, and then it's done. It's done. It did its job, whatever the case they wanted. And so again, what is the purpose of life insurance trust? The main purpose of life insurance trust is to decrease the value of an individual's estate in order to reduce the estate tax paid on the life insurance benefits passed from the grantor to the beneficiary. Trusts also protect assets from creditors as well. The bottom line is that ILITs are a powerful tool that should be considered in many wealth management plans to help ensure what your policy is in the best possible way to benefit your family. Even with the federal estate and gift tax exemption, it's currently at 12.92 million in 2023. It actually increased 13.61 in 2024. It's still possible to owe taxes on the state, but then you throw in the fact that it can't be changed, the privacy, and many other benefits. You can see how an ILIT can really be of tremendous value to your client as well. That's it for right now. That's all I have. I hope this helps you at least get the old noodle going as to how, when you meet with clients, like what happened to Keith, again, that's not his fault, but man, at least be well-versed, or at least well-versed enough to say, time out, just so you know, you can do that. As a contingent, you can do that. You can change it, whatever. However, God forbid, those two people die together, your primary beneficiaries, and then it goes to your children. Are you thinking about leaving them because you want them to have the funds to be raised, go to school, the things that I told you? Yeah, of course. Well, if that happens, that's not going to be the case, just so you know, until they're 18. Oh, okay, well, that's not, well, no, I don't want to tie up the damn money either until they're 18. What are you talking about? That's why I'm telling you this now. So consider a trust, this, that, or consider somebody else, maybe a parent. Because remember, they don't have to do it through a trust. They can just do it to maybe a parent. And then if that parent passes away, then they can go ahead and change the beneficiary and all that other good stuff while the person just has the IUL. So you don't have to sell them on a trust. I'm not saying that, but at least be aware of those things as well. Any questions from anybody? If so, you guys know how to get a hold of me. Well, so I just want to say thank you. Here's what I got to do. I got to stop the recording because I want to mention one more thing, but I don't want to record it. So hang tight. For right now, don't hang up. I just want to say thank you. I hope this helps you. I know it can help you, but most importantly, it can help your clients make very important decisions and make the right decisions by directing them with the right information as well. All right. Thank you so much.